Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the We the People in Assembly conference call. Today is the 7th of March 2018. Everyone is welcome to join the call. In order to keep order, we have some very simple rules. When you want to speak, ask for the floor by saying, "May I?" When you finish, say, "I yield," and that's the cue to the next person to ask for the floor. You're going to branch the discussion in a brand new direction. Just make a sentence or two to help everybody branch with you. And it's important that we all remember the purpose of the call is really to help each other in our effort to recenter our governments, both local, state, and national governments, under our constitutions, which is our law to them. And we know that there's an awful lot of lawlessness going on now that is obviously causing problems. I'd like to start tonight off by asking Bob Root. I didn't check if you're here, Bob. If Bob Root, would you bring us up to date, please, on what you observed at Terry's hearing, please?
Okay. Let's see. Where do I start? They keep a very rigid time schedule. In Terry's case, it was 15 minutes for each side. The prosecution was represented by Teresa Meggs, who is Willie Meggs' daughter, and she was representing Pam Bondi's the state. In any event, she went on first and frankly didn't do a great job, I don't think. And then Moorberger, Arthur Moorberger, who was the appellate attorney for Terry, is from South Florida there, knew the case quite well. There was a Judge Jay, had lots of questions of him on some technical issues that had to do with charging the jury and, all that sort of thing. The other questions that were asked were about Dana Johnson sitting there and next to the judge and being a prosecution witness. Anyway, long and the short of it is, and I think everyone agreed that there'll be a reversal, at least. And that will mean, I guess, that will mean that they can come back and retry him. So we'll just have to wait the 60 days and see. But I think it went very well for Terry's side. With that, I'll take any questions if I can answer. Oh, let's see, on the videos. It seemed like they post those, and I haven't checked today, but probably the video link for the archives are available, but it's going to take someone with a lot more computer brains than I've got to figure out how you open the darn things. Maybe someone could help out there. And I apologize for people not being able to get on the video real time. At one point, while the other cases were running, I went out and there's a kind of a sitting area out there in the Taj Mahal, they call it. And the video was playing there, and it's very well done. I mean, they obviously have people that are switching from the person speaking to the judges back and forth. So anyway, it played up there in the court, but no one that I know of could get on it. With that, I'll take any questions if you got them.
If I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Robert, I know Jason White was there. Anybody else? I know you don't have many people there, but how many people showed up? Who went?
Well,
frankly,
I was misled. I counted room for 70 people in that courtroom. There was most of the cases they heard, I didn't even see, family members other than, it was just all lawyers. Now in Terry's case, he had some family there. Jason was there. My wife and I were there. But I really think that, although I didn't think that Arthur is, he's kind of soft-spoken, a little bit disheveled, but he had these facts straight, and they could talk the same language as the judges for sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you going up there. Thank you.
If I may, let me read to you. I asked Jason if he could give me a comment that I could give to the team tonight. Here's what Jason had to say. Terry's attorneys were very encouraged. They meaning the appeals court, brought in a judge to the 3-judge panel that was an expert on jury instructions. He was very engaged during the oral arguments and even asked some very tough questions of the state's attorney. Inger was that's Terry's lawyer, was very enthused afterwards. We will probably have to wait 30 to 60 days for their decision. They still have additional filings after this argument. They did not present the issue with Dana Johnson, who is the clerk of the court, Dana Johnson's cousin being on the jury. That's next. So, Bob, could you answer one question for me? I thought this was the whole appeal, but it now sounds to me from Jason's comment that the appeal is in pieces. Can you explain that at all?
Yes, there's 3 pieces. Actually, the juror relative thing goes back to paperwork that was filed last September, October, something like that. Terry's attorney seemed to feel that the judges knew all about that at this hearing, but there was not subject matter for this hearing. So, that's still waiting its turn, and maybe they're going to go ahead and render a decision on this, and that would make the others kind of mute. But actually, it's a little bit more than one relative. She's got 2 relatives on the jury. It just seems to me that this thing is kind of rigged. One of them's a relative by marriage. The other one's, direct cousin.
Okay. But, so there's, how many more pieces did you say?
There's 2 more pieces. And I think when we talked to Inger, I don't think I really understood the 3rd piece.
I'm sorry, you thought what?
When you and I talked to Inger, I don't think it was really clear in my mind what the 3rd piece was.
Yeah, no, she wasn't clear. But I thought all pieces were going to go at the same time, and I was surprised to learn, no, they're separate.
Yeah, there's separate motions or whatever you call them.
Do we have any idea on the timing of the next piece?
No, but the relatives on the jury, that's pretty old, you know, so it ought to be coming up fairly quick. But on the other hand, maybe they want to get this main appeal out of the way first because it may render the others mute.
Got it. So the key issue on this appeal then was what?
This had to do with the jury instructions. It had to do with the overbroad nature of 843-0865 or whatever it is. But the questions seem to be really around how they charged the jury and, you know, subject matter there, and some technical issues that were a little bit above my head, to be honest with you.
Did you hear any words challenging 843.0855 constitutionality?
No, but there was not really. No, okay. I can't say as I did.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. Any more questions for Bob? We appreciate your report a lot, Bob.
Yeah. If someone could help us get into those video archives, I think it would be good. Matter of fact, there's even a link there that says direct download, and I can't get it to open.
Okay, this is off of the court site?
Yeah, this is the numeral 1 DCA.org.
Got it. Did I hear someone possibly volunteering to help Bob?
May I?
Yes.
Yeah, if he can send me all the links, I'm a computer freak. I think I can figure out how to download it all. And then, as you know, I got a high-speed internet. I can re-upload it all to YouTube for everyone to see.
Fantastic. Okay, I will give Bob your contact information if that's all right with you, Andrew.
No problem.
Very good.
If I may.
Yes.
I'd like to just make a comment. With regard to Terry, and if in fact it does end up being a mistrial, we have to get him some important information, and I'm trying to find out where I located this, and I've come across it in the past. But my understanding is that if there's a mistrial and the defendant, Terry, didn't request the mistrial and does not consent to the mistrial, then those are two required elements that allow them to schedule a new trial. So if he doesn't provide them with those two elements, in other words, if he doesn't either request it or consent to the mistrial, okay, meaning I consent to that, or I want to do it. If he avoids those two things through his counsel, then they, by statute, I believe, they cannot retry him. That's a way to avoid being retried via a mistrial. And I'll try and find the supportive information for that, but I think that's important for at least to throw that out there to Inger, or maybe she can dig into that, because I hate to have them make a mistake of, consenting or agreeing or whatever, and then, that opens the door, and I yield.
Don, I agree with you. That's my comprehension about how it works. There must be consent, and if the defendant refuses to consent, then it's double jeopardy and it's outlawed. So if you can find anything, send it to me. I'll get it to Inger. And even if you aren't able to find anything, I'll just give Inger a call probably on Friday.
If I may.
Yes, Bob.
What I was going to say is, now maybe someone can help me with this, but they talk about a reversal, not a mistrial. Now, there was some discussion in the one of the judges asked about whether they were going over the transcript, whether they asked for Inger asked for a mistrial when Dana Johnson was sitting there next to the judge. And, it was, they agreed it was implied several times. So, I think that they felt that was sufficient. But what's the difference in a reversal and a mistrial?
Anybody help us with the definition of the difference between a mistrial and a reversal?
May I?
Yes.
Well, was he found guilty?
Yes.
So if it's a reversal, it's, I'm not in my law dictionary, but it seems like it would be reversing the verdict.
I see. Yep. Hopefully you're right.
I don't know what else they would call a reversal for.
Yep.
I'm wondering how they managed to get jurisdiction in the first place.
Terry's first attorney gave it to them. We watched it happen.
Was that Steve?
I forgot the guy's name. Yeah, I think it was Steve.
In Tampa?
Yes.
Okay, I yield.
Yes.
Yeah, I yield too.
If I may?
Yes.
I was just going to say, on a reversal, usually what it means is that they're reversing the lower court's decision because an appellate court does have original jurisdiction.
So does that mean, in your opinion, it reverses the verdict?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what a reversal is.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So if it's a true reversal, then under this comprehension, it would not be a retrial.
No, it would not.
Okay. Thank you.
It means that the lower court made a bad decision, and the upper court is basically slapping their hands for it.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. I yield.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
May I?
Yes.
When you say they made a bad decision, is that the decision to take him to trial anyhow? Is that what they mean? I yield.
I think the appeal is based on at least 3 different pieces, and this piece was about the jury instructions and the 843.0855. I'm surprised, to be honest with you, that Inger didn't challenge the constitutionality of it, because it infringes on, I think, both, certainly the First Amendment, big time. The right to peaceably assemble and petition for redress of grievances. So I can't answer your question, but if the verdict is reversed on this first level appeal, it would be on either one of 2 things: either that 843.0855 is too broad, or the jury instructions were defective. Okay, I'd like to move on to bring you up to date on three issues that many of you are probably already familiar with, but in December 21st, 2017, President Trump signed an executive order about human trafficking and corruption, and last week, I think it was, if you're found to be involved in human trafficking or corruption, before your trial, before you're found guilty, the Treasury Department can freeze your assets. And this is linked to a national emergency we're in, where the national security is at risk due to the corruption and human trafficking. So the point I want to bring everybody's attention to is that the Treasury Department published a report, I think it was last week after our call, which is over 1,000 pages long of people whose assets have been frozen, people and entities. So things are moving on the financial scene relative to the corruption and the human trafficking. In addition, entering February, there were about 13,500 sealed indictments, and exiting February, the count is up 5,000 to about 18,500 sealed indictments in the PACER system. I have not witnessed them myself, but these are pretty reliable reports from people who have direct access. They claim that at any time, usually the average is between 1,000 and 2,000. So we're up to about 18,000. And then on late night of the 28th of February and early morning on the 1st, President Trump signed another executive order changing the court's martial manual and opening the way towards massive arrests by civilian law enforcement people backed up by the military. And the interesting piece of that is that we know from our studies that if you're a free, sovereign, independent American, you're not a U.S. citizen, and if you're a U.S. citizen, you're not a free, sovereign, independent American, right? These are two of multiple choices you have for your political status. And in this order, U.S. citizens can be tried by court-martial during a national emergency, which we're in. So I think the signals that I take from that is most likely that there will be upcoming arrests and that they will be tried. Many of the accused will be tried in a military court-martial. Any question about those three pieces of news? If not, I would like to play for you folks about a 6-minute little audio that I found on Reddit this morning. If you folks don't use Reddit, I would highly recommend it, where in one spot people post articles and then those articles get voted up or down, so that if you read from the top, you're reading the most important things that other people have already reviewed and said, yeah, this is important. So this is about a quick little 6-minute audio, YouTube, that summarizes what is anticipated to be some upcoming communications from the president. I don't know anything about its credibility or validity, but I think from all of the signs I'm seeing, I think it's reasonably on target for what's likely in the near future.
Men and women of the United States military will begin to round up and arrest many high-profile persons actively involved in an attempted overthrow of America from within. Many of these will be household names, individuals who are well known by the public at large. For this reason, many extraordinary actions have been taken in order to minimize the fallout and to bring swift justice on behalf of the American people. For the last 7 decades, there has been carried out a slow drip plan to infiltrate every part of the American way of life with the premeditated intent to weaken, subvert, and undermine the Constitution of the United States. Make no mistake about it, these wicked traitors were on the final leg of their plan to destroy America. They are guilty of treason against the Constitution and the people of the United States. For many, this will end with their death by way of public execution. The evidences presented against them will leave no doubt concerning their criminal and treasonous actions. Please know our actions were only made possible when on November 8, 2016, the good and discerning people of the United States said enough is enough and accomplished something this treasonous cabal never anticipated: the election of outsider Donald J. Trump, a plan which was set in motion just a few short years before. We now know this was made possible by good and faithful high-level patriots, most of whom are military, under the covert leadership of patriots Adam Rogers, Generals Flynn, Kelly, and Mattis, along with Rex Tillerson, and others who began a counter-initiative to ultimately eradicate all those complicit in this anti-American coup, the first stage of which was to seize the presidency from their wicked hands. Following this accomplishment, patriots gained the upper hand by installing pro-American leaders over each of the three-letter agencies, while Attorney General Jeff Sessions quietly began building airtight cases against those who are the enemies of the state. Beginning this Sunday, March 11th, the first wave of arrests will begin to occur, with the rest following swiftly behind. During this time, we anticipate many groups under the control and manipulation of the enemy's fake news propaganda will take violently to the streets in an effort to derail coming arrests. Mainstream media will seek to instigate uprisings, revealing their complicity in the demise of America. Because of this, the President will soon be addressing the American people directly by way of the emergency broadcast system with a message very similar to what follows. My fellow Americans, over the course of the next several days, you will undoubtedly realize that we are taking back our great country, the land of the free, from the evil tyrants that wish to do us harm and destroy the last remaining refuge of shining light. On my order, we have initiated certain fail-safes that shall safeguard the public from the primary fallout, which is slated to occur beginning March 11th. Upon the arrest announcement of Mr. Podesta, he will be the first domino to fall. Confirmation to the public of what is occurring will then be revealed and will not be openly accepted. Public riots are being organized in serious numbers in an effort to prevent the arrest and capture of more senior public officials. Therefore, on my order, a state of military control was actioned on November 11th of last year, enabling vital special operations to be carried out in the U.S. and abroad. During this time, false leaks and misinformations were released in effort to retain several within the confines of the United States to prevent issues of extradition, as well as the necessity for special operators who would be placed in harm's way during retrieval. Also during this time, rest assured, the safety and well-being of every man, woman, and child of this country is being exhausted in full. However, the atmosphere within the country will unfortunately be divided, as so many have fallen for the corrupt and evil narrative that has long been broadcast. Therefore, since the mainstream media cannot be relied upon to report facts, I've activated the emergency broadcast system during this time to speak directly to all citizens. Organizations and or people that wish to do us harm during this time will be met with swift fury, as certain laws have been to provide our great military the necessity to operate and to handle and conduct the operations at home and abroad. During this time, I will be insulated and protected on Air Force One and abroad. My specific locations will remain classified while these operations are conducted due to the nature of the entrenchment. The time has come to take back our country and make America great again. Let us salute and pray for the brave men and women in uniform who will undertake this assignment to bring forth peace, unity, and return power to the people. It has been our hope that this message reach enough people to make a meaningful impact. Because of the sensitivity and nature of this operation, we were not able to telegraph this message through normal methods for reasons I'm sure everyone can now understand. Follow instructions and remain calm. The primary targets are within D.C. and remain at the top and includes both Democrats and Republicans. Do not fear. The spillover in the streets will quickly be shut down. During this time, there may be false flag events, so stay alert, be vigilant, and above all, please pray. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Love is patient. Love is kind. God bless my fellow Americans.
Roger.
Yes.
Pam sent me that today.
I'm sorry?
Right on, you know. Pam Ayers, my neighbor next door, sent me that this morning.
Right. Yes, I sent it to her.
Yeah.
That's great. So any questions or comments about that, what we just listened to?
That sounds real.
May I, please?
Yes.
Now, this is Gary down in Michigan. It sounds like martial law to me, folks.
Well, I think he danced around the word martial law and said military something. I forgot the word he used.
Well, the word martial law, in my opinion, means this being in military, is when the marshal sees an error in your movement, the marshal has the right to take care of the justice right at the moment. That is the law of the land. The marshal is. So whatever his instructions are that day, or the military instructions are, say pick up Joe Doe, and for this reason and that reason, okay. You know, Joe doesn't go willingly, okay. Then the marshal can do justice right there in the street, much like they did Finnegan or anybody else.
Yep.
And you see, it's very, very difficult, and I don't know how the military would have jurisdiction over a private person, or a private. Well, I don't like using a private person, but a sovereign.
We know that the main approach is going to be with civil law enforcement folks backed up by the military.
Exactly.
If I may.
Yes.
Russ, North Carolina. Gary, the reason the president's taking on martial law, he's commander-in-chief. In martial law, the top military official controls everything: traffic, water, electricity, transport, no matter what. So Donald Trump will be able to say, go into Chicago and arrest Rahm Emanuel. They don't have to go through a lot of jack around or any legal stuff. They just go do it because he's commander-in-chief. He's the top general. That's why they're doing that.
I may?
Yes.
Okay, this is Captain Carl out of Wisconsin. I received that today too from a couple different sources, and I put something out that I want to just very quickly read to you. This is a recommendation to all American Militia Freedom Forces units of the Second Amendment under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 of the Constitution, DEFCON 3. There are building rumors of a military cleansing of the U.S. government. I suggest here that you temper your thoughts. It is about time, exclamation point. More importantly, with the point, if the 10th Amendment isn't the prime directive of this operation, we're all basically screwed in this. Then I also have a second video that I put down regarding that, and it states here that if not, it is a setup for a surprise attack against the Constitution and the American people to subject them to serfdom, vassalage, slavery to pay for the full faith and credit of the United States, end quote, to the tune of over $20 trillion plus another $152 trillion in unfunded liabilities to Social Security and Medicare. This whole thing could be a setup upon the American people to accept martial law on our streets for a reason that sometime between April and November, the U.S. dollar is going to collapse in a sudden 72-hour hyperinflationary event of a magnitude and proportion not even yet experienced in the history of the planet. I recommend, therefore, that all the American Militia Freedom Forces go to DEFCON 3 until such time as these concerns of, quote, martial law, end quote, and military coup d'etat are confirmed to be for the restoration of our Ninth and especially our 10th Amendment supreme laws of the land to full force and effect upon our executive branch, legislative branch, and judicial branch. Watch for street-to-street gun confiscation under any excuse that violates, quote, shall not be infringed, end quote. Have alternative off-the-grid communication capabilities and, quote, runners, end quote, routes set up to warn other neighborhoods and EMF units. The only way for this to be true is if, quote, the prime directive, end quote, of such an operation is to restore our Ninth and especially 10th Amendment supreme laws of the land to full force and effect upon all three branches. If that is not the prime directive, then this is a trap. Do not fall for it. Okay, so basically the plan is that the entire American Militia Freedom Forces will go to DEFCON 3 until it's confirmed that the purpose of this coup d'etat is to restore the 9th and 10th Amendment laws. With that, I'll yield.
And why are you labeling it a coup d'etat?
Because that's what it is. It is the government going against the Constitution, unless it is for the strict purpose.
Do you have any evidence to support that?
Well, because the president is taking over the civil control of the government. In other words, he's going over we the people. Well, unless with the exception of the possibility that it's specifically to restore the 9th and 10th Amendment laws.
Well, in my opinion, you may be premature in labeling it a coup d'etat because the government that is operating against a treasonous group inside the government. Hang on one second. Somebody's got to get.
May I, Roger?
Yes, Pam.
I was just going to tell you that somebody's talking over you or in the background, and we can hear it.
I tried to mute it, and I muted you. Sorry.
Okay. Well, thank you. I yield.
Okay, so there were two interesting things to me in that discussion. One was that anyone that continued their treasonous ways would be met with swift fury, and the other was Rex Tillerson's name being mentioned. I was not aware that he was strongly in the constitutional camp, and this is still an assumption that he is, but until we see it proven, it's encouraging to hear his name mentioned with the folks that are working to bring the Constitution back.
May I?
Yes.
It's my opinion that pretty much the entire, every member of the bar mafia needs to be taken into custody, and I can't imagine how they're going to do that. And a whole lot of the civilian law enforcement have been committing treasonous acts for a long time.
Well, in my opinion, you're bringing up a great point, and that is, where is the line going to be drawn about unconstitutional behavior? And certainly we know treason is clearly defined as giving aid and comfort to the enemy, and there's enormous amount of treason that's been going on over the last 20, 30 years, right at the top, across multiple branches. And is that going to be sufficient, or are they really going to go down to the local level? My comprehension that one area is going to get attention is sanctuary cities. Those mayors and those governors know the law, and they are ignoring the law, and they will be held to account. And that could be what is going to trigger riots that they are concerned about. They already know that the riots are planned. So until the dust settles, I have no clue personally where the line's going to be drawn as to the unconstitutional activity and whether the bar is going to be categorized as an unconstitutional, tyrannical organization.
May I?
Yes.
I yield.
Okay. I think that relates to the topic I was going to bring up tonight. I am helping Roger investigate his brother's illegal arrest, and I got the oaths of office for the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office. And there's something in there that does not sound right. Roger knew about this. We talked about it before we started the show. And it says, do hereby swear, solemnly swear to affirm that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States. And I did some research a half hour before the show, and we are almost the only state in the country that has this added in there. Are they protecting the government, or are they protecting us? I yield.
If I may?
We have a big problem there where we're going to have to straighten out the oaths within the state of Florida. There's no doubt about it. I'd like to invite a guest speaker to speak up now relative to the audio that I played. Destry is from Michigan, and the folks up in Michigan have been doing their assemblies a lot longer than we have in Florida. They've gotten further along than we have, and he has a few words that could be helpful in terms of the sequence of events that is coming up. His name is Destry Payne. Destry, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Roger. Thank you.
Could you fill us in, please?
Our assembly in March, April, and May of 2013 had issued some sets of orders to the Joint Chiefs of Staff and to the Pentagon. There was 21 orders total. Within these orders, quite a few of them have been followed that we can see evidence of. A lot of the things going on since Donald Trump was brought in coincides with the orders that were issued. A lot of these orders can be viewed online. Not all of them are exposed to the public yet, but a lot of them can be viewed online.
From your point of view, then, you're saying that this is not a coup d'etat. This is the military following the orders from the Assembly of the People.
Yes, the orders of the lawful civilian authority of the people assembled. That is correct.
I don't know how everybody else feels, but to me that's pretty encouraging.
If very many of you had paid attention to Newt Gingrich 3 weeks ago, yesterday, he was on the Hannity show for 6 minutes and 20-some seconds. Well, the last 15 seconds of his interview with Hannity, he remarked how the people, a very small group of people from Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania have shown them the true history. When Donald Trump was at the UN giving his speech, in his speech, he stated he was elected by the American people to serve the American people and to return the power back to the people. That's all coinciding with what we have done, our global notices, our local notices, the orders issued to the Joint Chiefs, to the Pentagon. It's all coming together. So I would not call it a coup. I wouldn't worry about it. They are operating under the orders of the lawful civilian body politic. I yield.
Thank you, Destry. Any questions and comments?
If I may?
Yes.
On that note, one thing I noticed with the president is he's the only president that I've known of for some time that has actually referred to himself as the President of the United States of America. Usually in their talks, they recognize themselves as the President of the United States or Commander-in-Chief. But if you've listened to some of his different speeches and stuff, I don't remember having a president for quite a while that actually referred to himself as President of the United States. And to me, that was sending, United States of America, to me that was sending a message to the people that he sees this group of people that are, you know, about the Constitution for the United States of America, not just the Constitution for the United States. I believe he truly is doing what the people want, and I agree with our guest speaker in what he was saying. I really believe it's all happening because of the people. I yield.
May I, please? May I?
Yes.
This is Gary down in Michigan back. I hate to jump in, but I listened very closely when President Trump took his oath of office, and when his vice president took his oath of office, and they took the oath of office to support the United States, and that stopped. They never said America, ever once in their oath. So I pray what you're saying is good, but the proof in the pudding is they said, then they stopped at the United States of America, the corporation. So I yield.
May I?
If I may.
Yeah, just one quick one to follow up with that. I know Anna von Reitz has said that they have offered the de jure office of the United States of America and bonded it for Trump to occupy, and he's the only president of recent history they could occupy because he's not a bar member. But to date, I don't think he has decided to occupy it. I yield. Go ahead.
Okay. I think I'm a little skeptical here because this sounds like admiralty law, some type of military law. I want to know where they have any reference to natural law or the common law.
I have the answer.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Destry again from the Michigan General Drill Assembly. Before we could issue those orders, before we could give certain global notices we give out, we had to fill a few of the de jure seats in the national level, including the seat of the president, because we have to have a national mouthpiece. It was required. The notices that went out internationally and to the Pentagon and to the White House and the Joint Chiefs were all autographed by the de jure president. So the de facto president cannot assume that seat when it's already occupied. I yield.
If I may?
Yes.
Okay, this is Captain Carlo again. I just wanted to say that I hope you guys are right, and I don't necessarily doubt you, regarding the good intentions of the President of the United States and the generals and the military and all that. What I am saying is, in order for them to occupy our states and our streets and the city streets and so forth with full troops and military equipment and heavy-duty military equipment, they would have to do something to pacify us, and this would be the perfect counter plan, tack to be able to do that, and that's what we're concerned of with the American Motion Freedom Forces. I yield.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep our guard up. I really do. But up until this call, I didn't connect the orders that had been issued by the properly, lawfully formed assembly that what we're seeing is possibly a result of that. I never connected them. Thanks to Destry, I comprehended, and in my opinion, it takes the risk down a bit, certainly. But I think it's wise not to let our guard down. So, someone else asked for the floor.
If I may.
Yes.
Just a point. The key word that was used is that they're going to go after the citizens. The citizens are the government. They are the ones that are citizens. We are not claiming to be citizens. So majorly, these things are going after their own, the criminals within their own. in my opinion, that's what I figured out. I yield.
Good point. Thank you.
May I?
Yes.
And this is his name Dustin, or I didn't get it quite. Are you with the 1st Michigan Assembly, sir?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Can you please give us the phone number and the date of your call? Can I yield?
Yep. You already connected with the Florida Assembly. They're not necessary, but yeah, you can attend because our job is to get people connected in their state. Let me bring it up here.
So if I may?
Yes.
So what was the instrument that started this? Was it from the 25, We the People? And who signed it?
You can view it on a website called nasaranews.blogspot.com. On the left-hand column, 2/3 of the way down, you'll see a section called Republic document links. There's a whole bunch of documents in there and a lot of notices that have been put out. If you read through those, there's 2 separate sets of orders issued in there too.
What's the website? Because you said it too fast.
NESARA, NESARA, news, NEWS, .blogspot.com.
Thank you. I yield.
Conference call information. It's every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. The phone number is the same as this conference call. It's 770-4160. The participant access code is 226-823#.
Thank you, Destry.
You're welcome.
Okay, any news from any of the counties? Anything from Marion County, Highlands County? Any news? Open mic, any subject.
May I?
Yes.
Roger, you think this is all going to be tied into this currency deal? Because if Trump tries to initiate this at the same time about the currency, bringing in a different currency, it take everybody's attention away from focusing on just one thing. I don't know, because he signed an executive order. The notes I had was February 28th or the morning of March 1st about introducing the basically this currency deal sometime in March. Of course, who the heck knows? I yield.
Yeah, the executive order you're talking about is the same one I talked about that was titled about the courts-martial, the military Army courts-martial manual, major upgrade to that manual. I personally haven't read it, and therefore something may be buried in there about a new currency. It is my understanding that we are facing an event and that there will be 3 pieces to the event. There will be mass arrests, there will be disclosure and exposure. Disclosure about the true history of our planet, the true history of our species, the true history of a number of suppressed technologies, and the exposure of those that are in trusted positions that have not behaved consistently with the Constitution. And then the third element will be a new substance-based, probably, as my understanding, probably gold-backed currency system to take over from the debt-based system. Those 3 things. Now, all along, the cabal has wanted to to play their side of the game, their hand, with some fakes and cause us to simply go into another situation where we think we became free and we really didn't. And there have been numerous tries at revaluing the global currencies, and last week, when it didn't work for the last time of probably 50 to 100 times they've tried it, it is my understanding, the reports were that 5 people died in Reno, Nevada, because the revaluation did not take place. So we have evidence, if that's true, that's evidence of the factions fighting against the factions, trying to restart a new fraud. And it appears to me like no one is really lining up behind these new frauds, and they are, in fact, keeping their eye on President Trump and his team to do what he's promised to do, which is put the power back into people's hands.
If I may?
Yes.
I'm looking at this website. Is this am I on the right thing? The Juror Republic's second notice of enactment of contempt of the Constitution?
That is the enactment for the contempt of Constitution that our Assembly created, the first de jure law since 1861.
Okay. And that, I'm just looking at this.
No, just a minute. Chris hasn't yielded. Chris, could you speak up a little, Chris, because we can't hear you.
I'm just looking here. It says Interim President RAHR, and then Speaker of the House PVT. I don't. Who are these people? What's their name?
These are people that we put into those seats in our Assembly at the time. They're no longer in there now. We had to occupy those seats in order to do certain notices and give certain orders that we did. But what you're looking for is we the people initiate the orders. 2, initiation for the orders of we the people.
Yeah.
But there's a 21 order that was issued that was not published.
Okay, it doesn't make any difference whether the people are gone or not. What are their? I don't see their names here. What are their names?
No, they were redacted for privacy and protection purposes for internet display.
You cannot do that on a document like that. Your name, whoever signs their name, their signature has to be legible. You cannot hold this back. We found this out a long time ago.
Well, the copies that we sent out, the originals that went out to the intended designees, they're the ones that received the full signature copies. What we displayed on
that's honorable then. Okay, then I'm happy. Okay, thank you. I yield.
Okay, someone else asked for the floor?
Yeah, I had the question. May I ask
I'm sorry?
a question? I would like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
You just mentioned mass arrest in a connection with currency, etc. Arrest of whom?
There are 18,000 sealed indictments. Exactly who has been indicted, I don't know, but I suspect that it is players, as we heard from the audio, on both sides of the political aisle, both Democratic leaders and Republican leaders, who have behaved against the best interest of the people and exhibited in their behavior treason against the country, the people, and the Constitution.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I may?
Yes.
Okay, this is Captain Carl again out of Wisconsin. I just wanted to relate that the deep state, otherwise known as the swamp, are all the alphabet soup agencies that violate the 10th Amendment, that exist above our 9th and 10th Amendment laws. They're not even supposed to exist at all in the first place, because all of those powers and all of that spending is reserved to our states respectively or to the people. And if that's the purpose of this military action, all of my organizations and all of my people would be for that 100%, and we would even like to help. But if it is again, if the purpose of this is for anything other than restoring the 9th and 10th Amendments, we would be against that. I yield.
Okay, maybe offline, but I'd like to know why you wouldn't be interested in restoring the whole Constitution and the whole Bill of Rights.
Okay, I can answer that question very clearly, succinctly. The 9th and 10th Amendments, in practical application, which basically eviscerates the vast majority of the U.S. government, in practical application, it is the entire Constitution and the whole Bill of Rights through practical application. In other words, all powers are restored to the states respectively or to the people. And that's how the 9th and 10th Amendment works, and that is the basis and the foundation of the rock of which the entire Constitution is all about, according to the framers of the Constitution, which I've spent many years in studying. I yield.
Okay, but I would advocate that we not forget about, for example, the grand jury in the Fifth Amendment. And the reason why, because I would like everyone on the call to give serious thought to the following idea. In my opinion, we're watching history being made, and if this turns out the way we all hope it does, we will have a restart back towards the constitutionally centered government, or other words, government centered under our Constitution, that we would all like to have. As the evidence comes out during trials of some evil stuff, in my opinion, it's likely to elicit a backlash from people who normally are not off their couch and in the actions of trying to restore constitutional government. That presents us, those that are already awake and have been working on it, an opportunity, because they're going to want to know, how do we, number one, rid our society of these evil behaviors, especially when it comes to child trafficking and organ harvesting from children. How are we going to rid ourselves of this in such a manner that it'll never come back? And as Jefferson said, it takes eternal vigilance. So we must use this energy that is likely to be built up, and we must bring it towards a constructive end of reestablishing the assemblies, the grand juries, and the de jure county government with their constitutions, and then, and only then, hand the reins off to the next generation by thoroughly educating them on what they need to do to keep the government centered under the Constitution. Because when you look back at the last 3 to 6 generations, we have really lost our way. And we're very lucky, as President Trump has said in one of his speeches, that we have this second chance, but it's our last chance to fix it. And I think he's right. His assessment is it's our last chance. We've got to wake up our neighbors, our friends, our family, and educate them about the common law, the grand jury, the assembly, and we've got to take back the steering wheel for our self-government system that the founders gave us. If we don't take the initiative and get ourselves organized, we will be missing the one last chance that President Trump says we have to reestablish self-government and put the power back into the hands of the people. So if we just got the 9th and 10th Amendment blessed, in my opinion, that is helpful, but it doesn't really solve anything. We've really got to get people educated and into the game of self-government. I yield.
Roger, if I may, come back to that. If I may come back with that, Roger, we totally, all my group. I work with several different groups across the United States. We all totally concur with the Fifth Amendment and common law grand jury to hold our public officials, public servants, accountable. So that's number one. Number two, the 9th and 10th Amendments make it that the U.S. government has almost absolutely no power, but that enumerated specifically under Article 1, Section 8. So that would resolve most all of our problems. And also, we also stand by the money clauses of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, which calls for only gold and silver coins shall be tendered in payment of debts. With that, I'll yield.
May I?
Someone else. Thank you, Carl. Someone else asked for the floor?
Yeah,
Yes, I
did.
I did before you, sir.
Okay,
go ahead, Don. Go ahead.
We must have, you asked for solutions to bringing this forward. We must have mandatory teaching of the Constitution, especially to those who are going to be holding office. They should not be allowed to even enter their offices when we put new ones in until they pass the test that they know the Constitution thoroughly. Also, mandatory teaching in all grade schools, private and public, if the public system even exists by that time. That's my suggestion. Any comments? I yield.
Thank you, Gordon.
If I may respond to that just real quickly, everybody always uses the word the Constitution. That's real concerning to people in my organizations because what does that mean? What does that exactly look like exactly? I submit to everybody on this call that the Constitution specifically means that the U.S. government can only spend money on the 18 enumerated things and have power on the 18 enumerated things under Article 1, Section 8, subsequent to the 10th Amendment. I yield.
May I?
I think we're in violent agreement. Someone else asked for the floor?
Yeah, I did.
Go ahead.
When you take into consideration the magnitude of the MK Ultra type brainwashing system that we call compulsory schooling, you're going to have a hard time re-educating the populace when Ivan Illich demonstrated to his conclusion that compulsory competitive institutionalized indoctrination that we call public schools almost totally destroys our natural creative imaginations by the time we're 10 years old. And then John Holt, in his book called Instead of Education, the last paragraph, he says, meanwhile, education, compulsory schooling, compulsory learning is a tyranny and a crime against the human mind and spirit. Let all those escape it who can any way they can. My point is, if we if an elector doesn't understand the Constitution, then it isn't competent to vote for someone, whether the person they're voting for has read or understands this Constitution thing or not. And I agree with the person that just spoke. The Constitution, I don't know what that's all about. So there we go. We've got to re-educate the populace is, I would imagine, isn't just a daunting task. It's impossible.
Well, I'm not with you on that. I think it's a daunting task, but I think it is possible. And we best start as soon as we can, and we best start at some of the younger ages when they're now getting their heads filled with the garbage. We got to fix that. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you'd have to open things like concentration camps and force people into it and force feed them what you're thinking is good for their is what's good for them.
I don't need concentration camps. I would simply go into school and teach the teachers and have them teach the kids.
Well, that's what schools are concentration camps.
Okay.
You need to read this stuff, man. Yeah. I'll just give you John Taylor Gatto. G is in Go.
I know about
him.
Yep.
Yeah, The Underground History of American Education.
Yep, he did a great job.
Yeah.
Okay, last call for questions. Go ahead.
May I, please?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the Gary Don again. You mentioned the grand jury, and in Michigan here, myself and some other folks, and I had more time, so I made most of the calls. We have the 6th District Federal Court in Detroit, which I've been in a few times. But anyhow, I had a ongoing conversation with the head clerk. He'd been there for over 30 years at that court, and I asked him if he could recognize Justice Scalia's decision and that they had to give a room for the common law, and on it went. And we were making pretty good progress with the clerk. But one day I received a call from the 6th District Court and stated that I would be no longer contain or bother anybody in the court, and if I wanted to know more about how the court worked, I would have to hire an attorney. So when you mention grand juries, they can set up a grand jury anytime they want, but it's not according to Justice Scalia's decision, and what was that, a 4-3 decision or whatever it was, and they sure don't. The clerk done everything he could because he knew the law, he understood, but nobody else in the court would ever think about going along with having myself or anybody go down there and establish a grand jury underneath the direction of Justice Scalia.
Gary, have you heard about fake news?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a term for those grand juries. They're fake grand juries.
I agree. I agree with that. But what I'm saying, we tried to get a real grand jury going according to Justice Scalia. And here's their answer. Their total answer was this: if you want to know more and you want to do anything, you have to hire an attorney.
No, I understand. I got it.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I'm saying, as much as we try to organize underneath the Constitution as it is, they don't have any part of it. That's how do you? It's like the old question: how do you enforce them? Where's the enforcement to do it?
Right now, what is the time to dust off your Magna Carta and the founding documents, the Declaration, the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution. Use Article 48 in the Magna Carta for enforcement if you need to. And at this time, when the operations are at the top, working to cut off the head of the evil snake, now's the time that we should be standing up all the grand juries we possibly can in our counties and across our state. It's this time because the public servants see the arrests taking place and the trials taking place, and if that doesn't send a message to those remaining in office, I don't know what would. I yield.
May I?
Yes.
This is Dester again from Michigan. We don't like that word Constitution here in Michigan. We figured it out. It's derived from the Latin term constitutor. And if you define constitutor, it's defined as one accepting the debt of another.
Right. We know it's a debt agreement, but what do you recommend anything being used instead of it?
What we did here, what our assembly did, was we took our original Michigan Constitution and we amended a covenant to it. And within this covenant, all terms within the Constitution and all terms within the covenant were defined out of the 1828 Webster's Dictionary, and we included the definitions in the rear of the covenant. That's what we did here.
Perfect. But when you use the term Constitution relative to the United States of America, the Constitution for the United States of America, do you not call it the Constitution?
Well, we call it by what it's named, where everybody recognizes it, but a lot of people don't even know there's 5 of them.
Yep. Okay, folks, we've gone a little bit over. I really appreciate everyone's support, especially our guests from Michigan, the northern land. I hope it's not too cold up there, gentlemen. We're having some gorgeous blue sky, 72-degree weather here. If you'd like to come visit, you're welcome. And I hope everybody has a good night and look forward to talking with you next week.
May I?
Yes.
Okay. This is only going to be a minute. When we talk about the Constitution, are we talking about the Constitution of 1781, the one about 1789, the one of 1871 where we became USA Inc., and does it have anything to do with the bankruptcy in the 30s plus the other one in 72? Are you?
I try to be very specific and say the Constitution for the United States of America. And it's my understanding that that was the original Constitution that came after the Articles of Confederation. I recognize that the representatives that wrote it did not have delegated authority. They only had delegated authority to update the Articles of Confederation according to the history I've read. But it's the best we've got, in my opinion, to lean on now, and if we use it and implement it, we'll be far ahead of where we are now. I recognize it's not perfect, nothing is, but it's a lot better than
County. This is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Sheriff County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me, and I'm sick of it. So I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt-free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, if I got some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. You know, 47,000 of you so far right now. You know, $1 a day. I mean, $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day.